The very first polls of the general election campaign are out, and they've given the Tories a glimmer, and it is just a glimmer, of hope, with Labour's lead in one poll carried out by JL Partners reduced to just 12 points over the Tories. But another poll, also published today, has put Sir Keir Starmer's lead over the Tories at 23 points, up from 19. So, you know, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. So to dig deeper into these contradictory polls, I am joined now by the co-founder of JL Partner, Dr. Tom Lubbock. Tom, look, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. Two very different polls out today. Your one appears to put the Tories 12 points behind. Can you just explain why yours is right and the others are wrong?
I think we wouldn't be so arrogant as to say ours is definitely right, but we use different methods and different pollsters have got different methods, and that will, in the end, prove to give you the most accurate result across the piece. So what we do is we say, well, there are lots of voters out there who tell us they don't know how they're going to vote. If you can believe that, they still say they don't know how they're going to vote. And we say, well, by the time of the election, most of them are probably going to vote one way or another. So we actually model how they're going to vote. We say, who do they look like in the group of voters who are telling us how they're going to vote? And then we allocate them to that party. And it's a method that's proven itself in the past. Not everyone uses it, but we think that's the right model for this election. OK, so if you've got the Tories 12 points behind, what do we normally expect during general election campaigns? We've got 5 and a bit weeks to go here now. We are starting to see some clear dividing lines between these two parties. Are you expecting those polls to narrow? Look, I think it's very dangerous to draw conclusions from one era in politics to another. This era that we're in, from 2017, 2019, now 24, all very, very different elections to those elections that came before. But you do tend to see parties like the Lib Dems, parties like Reform, the Greens, I think we've seen so far in this campaign, get really squeezed out of the coverage and therefore get squeezed in the polls. They may still do well in certain seats, but they will get squeezed in those headline voting figures. OK, so if the general election was tomorrow and if your poll was correct, I appreciate we're dealing in hypotheticals here, but I'm quite keen to know what that would make Parliament look like. So what would that be? It would be a healthy majority for Keir Starmer. Don't want to put an exact number on it because this is just one small sample poll that we've done. We'll be doing modelling throughout the campaign on larger samples. But it would be a healthy majority for Keir Starmer. And that's why some of the reaction today, people perhaps overhyping some of these results, this would still be a majority for Keir Starmer. Yeah, it's really interesting, actually, because all the big noise on social media at about 2:30 this afternoon was, oh, watch out, there's some spicy polling coming. And then a couple of polls dropped and it had Labour 23 points ahead. And then yours dropped and it was a slightly different story. So I do appreciate, I think people were trying to maybe get a little bit ahead of themselves there. When we look at some of the key policies that have been announced so far, so Labour votes for 16-year-olds, I would say that's, well, that and the schools policy are the big ones for them at the moment, I would argue. You look at the Tories with national service and what they've done with the pensioners, which we've just been discussing. How are those things playing? OK, so what are you noticing as a result of some of those policies? I have to say, on the Labour side, which is where I think we should start, I can't see that they've actually announced any policy that is of any relevance to this election so far. The votes for 16 thing is, I'm sure, for the next Parliament. I'm not sure that's got any relevance to this campaign. They are literally getting that out there so that when they do it, it will help them in the next Parliament. So that's where I think we are on that one. Labour presenting themselves as an extremely small target for the Conservatives, haven't announced anything really major in this campaign yet. The Conservatives, on the other hand, have given two really bold offers to their core voters, some of whom have from 2019 shifted to Reform. So that would be the national service and the quadruple lock or the triple lock plus, as it's been called, on pensions. Those are incredibly big bits of policy. Those are very bold offers. And we'll see whether they really do shift the dial with those voters. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't want to just entirely focus on Labour and the Tories. We had Nigel Farage out on the stump today saying what the BBC would describe as some quite inflammatory things, what many other people might describe as facts, actually, however unfortunate some of those may be when it comes to immigration, illegal immigration as well, and sectarian politics in this country.
What do you make of how this might play with the voters? What do you see happening with reform?
Yeah, well, this election is being conducted at the moment against a backdrop of small boat arrivals, which pretty much look like they did this time last year. Maybe they're up a bit, maybe they're down a bit in some weeks. But the Conservatives have fundamentally failed to change the narrative on the small boats. And that is really going to limit the amount of upside they've got in this campaign, the amount of tightening you'll see. Maybe there's a rabbit to come out of the hat. Maybe a flight will go off to Rwanda or something. But at the moment, Nigel Farage has got a pretty clear playing field.
OK, lovely stuff. Look, great to talk to you, and thank you very, very much. And I really do hope to talk to you again rather a lot over this general election campaign. And, yeah, thank you very much for keeping us informed as well with all the latest polling data. That was the co-founder of the polling firm JL Partners, Dr. Tom Lubbock.